Hangout event with Mr. Philip. He is a veteran journalist from Indian Express, Outlook, and various other well-known journalistic websites, and also the newspapers that we have in the country. So please tell me about yourself.
Yeah, my name is A.J. Philip. I have been a journalist for the last 42 years. I came to Delhi in 1973 December, and I joined a news agency called the India Press Agency, IPA. Then I moved to, at that time I also worked for the magazine called The Link.
Right.
Yeah. And then after some time I shifted to Bhopal, where I worked with the Hitavad. This is one of the oldest newspapers of India. I worked there for about 3 years. And thereafter I went to Patna. I worked for a newspaper called The Searchlight. It was founded by Dr. Yadindra Prasad. I worked there as assistant editor for some time. Then I joined the Hindustan Times in Patna. I was with in the Hindustan Times for about 6 years in Patna. Then I got transferred to Delhi, where I was with the Hindustan Times for about 4 years as an editorial writer. After that, I shifted to the Indian Express, where I was senior editor for about 8 years. And then I left journalism and joined Professor Dr. Amartya Sen. He set up a trust with his Nobel Prize money. So I was the founder director of that trust, Prithiji India Trust. So I was with him for about 7 months. Then I got a job as a senior associate editor and officiating editor of the Tribune in Chandigarh. So I went to Chandigarh. I was with the Tribune for about 6 years. Then I came back to Delhi, and then I rejoined Dr. Amartya Sen's trust. I was there again for about a year. Then I started my own website called Korrade.com. And then I started freelancing. Right now I write editorials almost every day for the New Indian Express. I write a column for Oman Tribune. It's a paper published from Moscow. It's a weekly column. I also write a weekly column for Indian Currents, a magazine published from Delhi. This is now 20 years old. I've been writing for them for the last 20 years. And I also have a presence in Facebook where I write. This is what I do right now. And I also find time to run an NGO called Deepalia. It's one of the oldest NGOs of Delhi. We run 6 schools, 4 of them in Delhi, 1 in Haryana and 1 in Uttar Pradesh. Ours is an all India organization, and we have been in the field for the last 37 years. And I have been president of Deepalia for the last 20 years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a great introduction, I must say. Next, the point that we are here to talk about how media is using its freedom of press, basically. Like we have been hearing since the dawn of the civilization that media is free. It's the fourth estate, but it is free. Nobody controls it. It works as a watchdog for the society. But now, as we see through how the modern man is approaching television, mass communication, media is making everything a hype just for the TRPs, sensationalizing news, and does not have a news sense in the way. For example, if we take Sheena Bora's case, that is very recent, every small and minute details were making a hype on the news channels, but every night on every news channel there's a lot of debate that we see. So what do you think, what should be the code of conduct for media?
Yeah, media has evolved in the country from a voluntary organization to an industry. For instance, the first newspapers in India were started not to make money. They were started with some purpose. And the purpose was to educate the people, one. And the other purpose was to take part in the freedom struggle. So Mahatma Gandhi was himself editor of 6 newspapers. And his objective was not to make money. Although he was a successful businessman, because he ran most of his newspapers to make profit also. He made profit also. The point is, his purpose was not to make money. His purpose was to educate people and make the media an instrument of the struggle for freedom. But after independence, the media has become an industry. Now it's a big multi-billion industry in India. And they want, they have a lot of investment is required for the media. And they want to make money out of it. So the purpose of the media has changed. So today television has to survive, and if it has to survive, it has to make money. So they are competitively trying to make money. and that is why their emphasis is on TRP rather than on educating the people. Similarly, for instance, in earlier, the purpose of the newspaper was to educate the people, to make the people conscious about their rights, conscious about the law, conscious about the freedom that they enjoy, awareness. But now, their primary purpose is to entertain people. Their primary purpose is to first to make money for themselves and to entertain the people.
Exactly.
So with these two objectives in mind, they are unfortunately catering to a group of people who want to be entertained by the media.
Right, absolutely. So I would also, as we have a lot of questions about how do we take this forward, because we have been seeing outside foreign media also. Do you do the same thing also, like as compared to India?
Yeah, unfortunately, in the foreign countries, for instance, in Britain, there are two types of media. One can be called the mainstream media, and the other is the tabloid journalism. In tabloid journalism, what they do is they emphasize a lot on murder, on crime and things like that.
Right.
But they have a limited circulation. Not limited, they have a large circulation. But those readers expect only those kind of stories. That is why they pick up those papers. But there are mainstream newspapers which they also cover it, but they will not go out of the way to cover these murder and other crime stories. So they cover as normal events. So the people are here. What happens is the general media or the mainstream newspapers are now picking up these stories and playing up these stories.
Right.
For instance, you mentioned the Sheena Bora murder case. I've been seeing, one leading newspaper of the country, they have been devoting page after page for this murder. I don't understand why, because in a country like India, where every day, at least a dozen people are killed.
Exactly. There's a
But
lot of
why so much of emphasis on this particular girl?
specific case.
Yeah, it is very unfortunate. Any murder is unfortunate.
Exactly.
Yeah, this girl's murder is also unfortunate.
That goes for Shashi Tharoor's wife also.
Yeah.
That case has been in the media, that was in the media for about more than 1 month.
Yeah.
And it was debated every night about how the Shashi Tharoor's wife was killed, Sunanda Pushkar, and how are things coming up? Is Shashi Tharoor behind it? That's it. That goes same for Imrani Mukherjee also.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is basically, why is media not concentrated on so many other points that we have? For example, we have reservations talking about one rank, one pension. That was the time when Sheena Bora's case was going through. Why did media not cover this? Otherwise, did not cover this event, these events basically, rather than publicizing this event, which is moreover a big shot thing that has been happening.
Yeah, I want oppose coverage of Sheena Bora murder case also. Newspapers have a job to cover it also. I'm not disputing that, they should cover it properly. But my point is, why should we go out of the way to cover it? And what is the result? Has there been any result because of that coverage? Has the case become stronger? Have they been able to unravel the truth? They have not been able to. The Maharashtra police has not been able to do. Now they are giving it to the CBI. Why should it happen? It's a simple murder case.
Exactly.
It should have been, the police should have been able to cover it.
And
should have been able to to arrest the culprits. They have not been able to do that. Similarly, another case you mentioned. Sunanda Pushkar case. For instance, there is also she was killed or she died in a 5-star hotel in Delhi. I do not know whether she was killed or she died of whatever. Anyway, she died an unnatural death or natural death. The police should have been able to find out very easily. We have the technology, we have all the infrastructure to find out. But the media was after that, media covered it extensively, and then what happened? After about a year and a half, some specimens of the body have been taken to America. Why? India doesn't have the system to check that. And now, recently there was a murder in Dadri in UP. There also the meat. The person was alleged to have eaten beef, and this beef has been sent for examination whether it was beef. When we do not have enough technology to find out whether Sunanda Pushkar's internal
exactly, there is some sort of problem.
poison or not. For that it had to be sent to the US.
International.
How can they find out whether it was beef or mutton?
In that case, I really want to ask: is it necessary to send them beef to test? I mean, what's the point of?
No, there is no point because in UP or in
a
India,
guy has been murdered.
Yeah.
And you are
the
testing
law is
whether
that
it was beef
in
or-
India, in UP, it is illegal to kill a cow, agree,
Right.
or its progeny, but it is not illegal to eat it. I suppose somebody gives me a cutlet,
Right.
and if I eat it, it's not a crime because the law doesn't say it is a crime. So what is the point then? Now you have to find out is whether he killed. That's a separate issue.
That's a separate issue.
Whether it is beef or not, it is immaterial.
Right.
And sir, there is one question I really want to ask. One of my friends works with Z News, and he says that the complete Z News has been owned by Modi or some of his allies. Now what he says that they cannot ever post a word against BJP government. Now what I want to ask is, when you say that media is corrupt or they are using their power strong, is it always the media is using their power wrong, or is it the big tycoons or big heads that they are manipulating the media, they are throwing their big words?
You see, what is media? Media is, when you say media, it consists of print media, it consists of electronic media, now it consists of the digital media also. Now, what happens is, you can't generalize it.
Right.
There are thousands of owners also. There are tens of thousands of journalists working for all these organizations.
Right.
There are thousands of people owning these organizations also. So I cannot single out somebody and say that I cannot generalize, say Indian media is great or Indian media is absolutely free. I cannot say that. There are good journalists and there are bad
But
journalists.
can we blame a single person, like media is bad? Can we seriously blame one organization for it, or we have to say that the whole system is bad?
No, there are as I said, there are bad journalists. There are bad news agencies. There are bad television companies also. No, but one good thing is, at least till today, you have the freedom not to watch it. If you feel that a particular channel, say CTV or C channel or whatever channel, you think that it is bad, then you have the freedom to want to watch it. You have also the freedom to tell your friends and relatives, don't watch that TV.
Right.
That right you have.
When you use this word not to watch it, you have the freedom not to watch it. At this, you must have heard about it, AIB roast.
Okay?
AIB roast.
Uh-huh.
Due to many political issues, people protesting, they had to, take down the video from the YouTube. Do you consider it as a good thing because there was a lot of abusive words in that video, or do you think it is bad because you are depriving people who want to watch it?
Yeah, you see, people want to watch many things. That doesn't mean that we should cater to them. Our purpose is we have one consideration. Public interest is a great consideration for a journalist. Suppose when I write something, I should not hurt anybody,
Right.
or I should not cause any situation. I should not create any situation where there will be disharmony. That is my primary objective as a journalist. And second, journalism is that way. What is the primary concern of the journalist? The primary concern of the journalist is the public interest. And if your report, if your video is going to create animosity among the people, or tension among the people, or violence among the people, then I would not like to publish that.
So then how will a person, like we have fundamental rights of freedom of expression,
Yeah.
does it not contradict freedom of expression of a person?
No, you have the freedom of expression. Agreed. I agree with that. You have the freedom of expression, but I also have a freedom of not to be disrespected.
Right.
I have a freedom not to be offended also. So you should consider my sentiment also. Yeah. So there has to be a balance. So you have a fundamental right. For instance, there is one magazine, what is it? Charlie Hebdo.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that is not the kind of freedom that I would like to have. You see, why should I, if suppose somebody is venerated by somebody,
Right.
suppose the Prophet Muhammad is venerated by the Muslims,
Right.
why should I write against him, the Prophet Muhammad? Why should I caricature him? Why should I know what purpose would be served?
But then you say you have the,
Freedom of expression.
you have the right not to watch it.
Right.
No, that is true.
You don't like it, don't you?
No, that is true. That is true. But why, there will be tension, there will be tension. Why create that? If you are advancing a cause, I can understand. But merely caricaturing it or merely causing, disharmony is not freedom of expression. Freedom. Yeah.
Right. So basically, if I go for writing or the power of expression that a person has, an artist has, through his or her writing or through any sort of caricature, he's trying to make people aware about its hollowness, right? If we talk about ISIS or Prophet, right? How are people misusing the word of Islam in the world? Charlie, the magazine just tried, or the person just tried to express his views through his caricature as he's an artist. So that's just his expression.
No, I agree. Artist has the right to express his viewpoint. I agree.
Right.
But he should not at the same time, he should not at the same time, create a situation where the people feel offended also.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that if you are to expose an organization or a political motive, etc. I won't oppose it. But there has to be some debate. That is what I said. Particularly, for instance, in a secular country like India, it's very easy for me to provoke a situation. How? If suppose I am allowed to create some inflammation, create a situation, I can easily do it by using Twitter. I can write something.
Obviously,
I can show something. Yeah. That if I do you think it is my freedom of expression? For instance, yesterday somebody sent me a picture. I have the picture with me in my Facebook messenger picture, and it shows some Brahmins with their sacred thread. They are slaughtering a cow. One picture has come. I do not know whether the picture is Photoshop. I do not know. What was my temptation? Just because somebody sent it to me, I got it. I have it in my Facebook messenger. Should I publish it? If I publish it, will it be a great service to the people? Not I know.
That's your choice.
It is not choice. If I create it, there will be tension.
Right.
There will be tension. There can be violence also, and somebody can and that I won't appreciate. But somebody can attack me also.
But yes, I understand. But at the same time, people will get to know about the thing that is happening around. Why is cow or beef considered or has been banned in various parts of the country? Why? There might be some reason. There might be some political reason behind it. And those who are following such things, there might be some political reason behind it. Right? So there are two ways to express yourself. Either you can keep the information to yourself, or by opening up with people, you can make people aware about it.
Yes, for instance, on the issue of beef, for instance, I have written in at least 4 or 5 articles. Recently also I wrote an article exposing the beef. I have been saying that beef is a people's choice. For instance, there was an anthropological study, and that report came about 10 years ago, and it was found that there were about 6,700 communities in India, and out of them 86% people ate beef. 86%. A majority of the Hindus, almost all the scheduled castes, almost all the scheduled tribes, almost all the backward castes, they eat beef. Almost all the Muslims, almost all the Christians. So together, it came to about 86%. Maybe it may be an exaggeration. It will definitely, they certainly form the majority. That much I am sure. Beef eaters in India form the majority. And what does Mr. Modi goes? What does Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister Modi does? He goes abroad. He hugs people like Barack Obama. He hugs people like Mark Zuckerberg. They all eat beef. Yeah. And but a poor man in Dadri, he ate beef, or allegedly ate beef, and he was killed. Now, what is the rationale for it? I have been questioning it. But that doesn't mean that I should show a picture which I am not sure about
you're not sure of.
Showing, Brahmins killing cow. A cow. That is not proper.
Okay, sir, what should be the consequences of using your expression? I was asking about what are the limits of the consequences for using your freedom of expression in a non-way. Like for the Charlie Hebdo case, we see some guys with weapons, they kill the elephant. what do you think? Are you in the favor of this, that they use their freedom of expression wrong and this should be happen to them, or you want some legal procedure to happen? They should file a case first and then they should follow all these procedures. What should be the consequence of not using your or using your freedom of expression in a law?
Yeah, you see, the freedom of expression, I believe, should not be misused.
It should.
That doesn't mean that it gives anybody the right to kill. Nobody in India, for instance, nobody can take the law in his own hands. There are well-established procedures to take the law. Only the police or the judiciary can use the law against anybody. And you and I are not supposed to use the law against anybody. So, what the ISP or whatever was done against the cartoonists is absolutely unacceptable. I won't accept the killing of the cartoonists. That is not the solution. At the same time, I would also say that the system should not allow somebody to publish such those cartoons. For instance, in India, you cannot draw a cartoon like that, and because there are laws in India under which you can be put in jail. So that is one thing. For instance, in the US, sometime back, one mad character, he burned the Korrade. And how did he burn? He burned it publicly. What was his purpose? His purpose was either he was mentally unsound or he wanted some fame. And of course he justified it as his freedom of expression. What is the freedom of expression there? There is no freedom of expression. Because of that, there was violence in some parts of India also. There was violence in some other parts of the world also. What was the need for that? So he should have been booked for creating nuisance. He should have been promptly arrested. Of course, he was arrested. Yeah.
Okay, sir, as earlier you said, you don't like people making jokes on others or religion. Have you seen the movie PK?
Yeah, I saw it.
You like it?
I like the movie.
All the parts?
Yeah, I like the movie in the sense, I like the movie in the sense, because he intelligently used it. Yeah.
Sir, when I say making jokes on gods, the part I focus on mainly is that the illogical traditions they follow in the name of God.
Yeah.
And that's where a sarcastic part or a joke comes in.
Yeah.
Like making Hindu god Ganesha idols and submerging them in the river, causing rain water pollution. There is a need to make fun of that so that people can stop doing it. I mean, it's such an illogical thing. We should make fun of it. That we are against it. By making jokes on it, we are saying that we are against it, and it is something illogical, and people should stop doing it.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. What happened in the case of the film PK? If we had critically examined, he did not question any of the Hindu beliefs. The film doesn't question any of the Hindu beliefs. It only questions certain illogical practices.
Rituals.
Rituals. He questions only the rituals. He is exposing only the meaninglessness of certain rituals.
Right.
That is all. For instance, we had in a Raja Ram Mohan Roy.
Right.
He was a great Hindu leader. He was a great Hindu reformer. He questioned many of the religious traditions of those people. Yeah, Sati was one. Similarly, the person who founded the DAV movement, Swami Sadananda Saraswati, what did he do? He questioned even idol worship. Those who follow the DAV tradition, I have visited their temples also. Their temples do not have any idols. They don't worship any idols. He questioned the very existence of idols. That is fine, but he did not question the fundamentals of Hinduism. What is the fundamentals of Hinduism? The fundamentals of Hinduism is that there is one God. They also believe, that in one God. So he did not question that. He only questioned certain rituals. So similarly, in the film PK, the film producer or the director effectively and very powerfully, shows the illogicality of certain rituals. For instance, yesterday I wrote an article about science. For instance, if somebody says that there was a mythical river called Saraswati, Triveni Sangam in Allahabad. Triveni Sangam Allahabad means the Ganga and Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati joins there. That is why it is called the Triveni Sangam. That is why it is very sacred for the Hindus.
Right.
Now there is no third river. People say that millions of years ago the river disappeared. Okay, I have no problem in believing it. Because that is your belief. You go and that is fine. I won't question that. But when the government of India, the last government, Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, spent millions and millions of rupees for digging some areas of Haryana to find out where exactly was that river.
Right.
That I would question. Because that is wasting public money.
Exactly.
For instance, there was a language which Jesus spoke. Jesus spoke the language called Aramaic. That was the language which Jesus Christ spoke. Today that Aramaic language is spoken only by a few thousands of people. Not even 1 million people, only a few thousand people speak that particular language. Now if all the Christians of the world say, no, that language has to be resurrected, that has to be made the world's preeminent language, I would certainly criticize it because that is foolishness. Similarly, Sanskrit is a great language. I won't deny that Sanskrit,
Right.
the greatness of the language, it's a wonderful language. For instance, many of the words, if somebody speaks Sanskrit, I can understand at least 50% of it because Malayalam has a lot of Sanskrit words.
Exactly.
I have no complaint in promoting that language. But if tomorrow BJP government or tomorrow a minister says this is the greatest language, so this should be taught by this should be taught in all the
Exactly.
schools. There is a 3-language formula. Now they are talking about a 4-language formula. And if Sanskrit is to be the mother language of all the languages, and if the government is to spend millions and millions of rupees on popularizing this language, I will certainly criticize it. That is not criticizing Hinduism because I don't consider Sanskrit as the Hindus' language.
Right.
Nor do I consider Urdu as the language of the Muslims. Urdu was a wonderful language. Who killed Urdu? Urdu was killed by people. Some people killed the language.
Right.
Otherwise, Urdu is a beautiful language.
Beautiful.
Sanskrit is a beautiful language. I don't consider Urdu as a Muslim language and Sanskrit as a Hindu language.
Right.
They should be treated as languages of the country.
Languages.
And they should be promoted or they should be promoted.
Right.
Similarly, Sanskrit, the government should set up studies. They should set up chairs in universities. All that is fine. But if if the government spends money on making everybody in India, speak Sanskrit, I think it will be as foolish as anything else. As making Aramaic the language of the world.
Right. Very, very great. So I have getting back to the sensational issue that we were discussing about. That, as you said, as media has now become more of a commercial thing. Now media has to earn to give its employees money or earn its bread and butter. But in this process, the media is losing its sheen, its real identity. How do you take it?
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part of it. You see, earlier, if something appeared in the newspaper, people used to say, yes, I because it appeared in the newspaper.
Exactly.
Because anything which appeared was thought and credible.
Exactly.
Now, if somebody says, it appeared in the paper, then the question, which paper, which reporter, all these questions will be asked because the newspapers as such has lost its credibility.
Right.
Some journalists have the credibility, some newspapers have the credibility, but the press as such has lost the credibility.
Credible.
If suppose somebody says it came on TV,
Right.
do you believe it because it came on TV? Nobody believes.
Exactly.
That is the unfortunate part of it.
Exactly.
So what needs to be done is to regain the credibility of the organization, regain the credibility of the press. That is where journalists should that is what should bother the journalists.
Exactly, you're absolutely right. But the point that I'm saying again, that they have that sense. Like for example, X news channel is discussing about Rahul Gandhi or some sort of big personality. Are they getting sponsored about it, or they're doing it for their own needs, or are they doing it for they're trying to eulogize Rahul Gandhi? So in any way they're promoting him, but also forgetting the real notion that is it an important issue to be discussed?
Yeah, media should set the agenda.
Exactly.
The media should set the agenda by focusing on the truth, focusing on the relevance of the story and things like that. But unfortunately, the media is now controlled. Who controls the media? Now many industrial houses control
Exactly.
the media. Many politicians control the media.
Exactly.
When the controlling authority is with businessmen or with politicians, how can you expect credibility? That is one problem.
Exactly.
So if you consider the media as a whole, I would say a large section of the media has become is no longer neutral, or is no longer pro-truth. It is supporting some party, or it's supporting some vested interest. So you have to be very very choosy in while choosing a newspaper, or while believing in a newspaper report.
Right.
Sir, bringing up one case here. A couple of months ago, I guess a year ago, there was some rebel groups in Assam. They blew up one place and many people died. This incident happened just weeks after the Peshawar attack, school attack, and the Indian media was accused of giving all the limelight to the Peshawar attack and not giving a single camera lens to the Assam attack. My first question is, how you see those rebel groups, those spreading nuisance according to the Indian media in Assam, and why do you find it, as being a journalist, why do you find that Indian media was not interested in what's happening in Assam, and especially the northeast countries, the northeast states of India?
Yeah, because as such, I had once been to Assam, and I travelled in the northeast, and NDTV had a correspondent in Korrade, and somebody introduced her as the Indian media representative for the whole northeast.
Okay.
So she was the person based in Korrade, and she was supposed to cover the 7 states in the northeast. So that is the kind of penetration that the Indian media had there. So we don't, as the media, we do not cover the northeast adequately.
Exactly.
We do not have correspondents in many of the states. How many news houses in Times of India is one of the biggest
Exactly.
news organizations in the country, or the Hindustan Times, or the Indian Express. How many of them have their own correspondents in any of these states?
Exactly.
Maybe they have one correspondent in Korrade, and he is supposed to cover the whole of northeast. And northeast is a very complex area. The ethnicity of people in Manipur would be quite different from those in Meghalaya. The people in Nagaland have a different ethnicity than the people in Tripura, for instance. For the people in Nagaland, there are so many varieties of people. There are different types of castes, different types of tribes are there. Unless you know their idiosyncrasies, how can you report it? So we generally in our media doesn't invest in these kind of areas. Somebody some time ago did a study and found that in the Indian newspapers, or the so-called national newspapers which are published from Delhi, 85% of news coverage is about events that happen within a radius of 3 kilometers of Indian Parliament.
Okay.
85% of the news is about an area which is less than 3 kilometers from the Indian Parliament. That means all the Prime Ministers, all the MPs. This is the kind of reporting that we do. And the same is true about the states also. In states also, 85% of the main political reporting is around the capital, state capital. So this is the unfortunate part. 85% of the Indian population, 85% of the Indian geographical area is not covered by the media.
Exactly.
Except when there is a major earthquake, or except when there is a major railway accident, then that area gets covered.
So this is why I asked, how do you find those rebel groups in Assam or northeast states of India fighting for their separate country? How do you find them?
Yeah, there is an issue in the northeast. There are insurgent groups in the northeast. For instance, in Assam there was one. In Nagaland there is one. In Manipur there is one. All these all these insurgent groups are active there. But unfortunately, our media has not been covering it adequately. We follow, whatever the government agencies, for instance, the army, whatever the army says about it, we report it. Otherwise, the media doesn't report much.
Exactly.
As what I was about to say, India got its independence in 1947. It's been 60 or 70 years. But in many parts of northeast India, you won't even find a railway track, proper railway track. Are they doing something bad if they're asking for their separate country? Are they wrong?
Yeah, that is a separate issue because India, unlike any other some other countries, where secession is allowed. You see, for instance, some countries secession is allowed. You can argue, say, we should have secession. Our area can be broken away. In India, we do not. Our constitution doesn't allow that. That is one thing. Second issue is whether it is right or wrong. I know it's very difficult to give a proper answer because if, for instance, the Nagas, they say that Nagaland has been there even before India was there. Nagaland was there even before India. India came into being according to them in 1947 because India consisted of about 560 princely states.
Exactly.
They were integrated and that is how India became India. Otherwise, India was an idea.
Yeah.
It was India was an idea or India was a concept. For instance, what was India? There was no India as such. There was Kerala, there was not even Kerala. There was Travancore, there was Kochi and there was Malabar. There were three principal areas in Kerala. Similarly, all the parts of the country, there were 560 princely states. So idea of India came into being much later. People may today speak ill of the British, but it was the British integrated a majority of these of these states into a one unit.
Exactly.
So, being a part of a state where central government is not, thinking about you, they're not making any plans for you. Even the political rallies, we never seen our news channel, something is happening, this political rally is happening in Assam. It's not, I don't think it's a part of India.
That goes for Jharkhand.
That goes for Jharkhand also.
Yeah. So my answer to that is, we should have better coverage. Yeah, for instance, in the Northeast doesn't get much representation in Delhi. What is the representation? Every state has one or two MPs. 2-3 MPs come from, except for Assam. They all have 2-3 representatives in Parliament, and they are not that. That is the unfortunate part of it. In Delhi, to be heard, if you come from a state like Bihar, coming from a state like Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, where you have a large number of MPs, then you can have it's unfortunate that Northeast is not covered adequately, and it's also unfortunate that there is not enough linkages between these states, and it is also unfortunate that people from the Northeast are not treated well in Delhi or in other parts of India. Yeah, for instance, a girl from Northeast, she will find very uncomfortable living in Delhi. There have been many incidents of this. Yes. Yeah. So all this is bad. So what we need to do is we should have greater integration. We should promote integration, and that is one way of solving this kind of a problem. How many people or how many of our leaders know about Northeast? Very little knowledge is
This is
there
the
about
problem
it.
that we face, right?
Yeah.
And why do we brand these, rebel groups as terrorists? Are they really terrorists? Why do we say they are
If they're
terrorists?
fighting for their rights, that is not.
Yeah, so for instance, there is a law. There is a law, against, which most of the Northeast people are concerned about. That is the armed, what is that?
Armed Forces Power. AFSPA.
That law. See, that law is bad, and it needs to be, done away with. And but unfortunately, although the government, many of the political parties, they spoke against it, but when they come to power, they want to retain that.
Exactly.
So
That has been done in
that
Kashmir
law
also
needs
this
to be,
time.
done away with.
Yes.
For instance, there is one lady. She has been fighting for
The Iron Lady.
Yeah.
The Iron Lady. I
Yeah.
don't remember her name.
Iram. Sharmila.
I don't remember. 14. It's been 14 years.
Yeah, she has been struggling. Iram Sharmila.
Iron Sharmila, yeah.
Iram Sharmila has been fighting, and nobody bothers about her.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. Actually, she has
They
a
put her
very
in jail.
yeah.
Use the glucose.
She has a genuine case, and there are some expert groups appointed by the government that also recommended that this law should be done away with. But the law is still there.
You're in favor of this? That we should
No, we should do away with that law. It should be
sir.
abolished.
The Kashmir part, the Jammu and Kashmir, they have this law in Afspa journalism.
Yeah.
And now what my point is, when you are with a group, when you are with a situation, when you are with a state where many people are against government, when many people are protesting about many things, and they are they don't even think twice before going for the violence. They have the guns. Then it is the duty of the government to have certain special law for these states, give some special rights to the army, that okay, if you find someone suspicious, after having given 1 or 2 warning, you can kill that guy because he can be a threat to the nation. That is why I found that AFSPA should be there, because the condition of these states are not very similar to what condition we are living in.
No, I do not agree with your argument. I would say that Indian laws are sufficient to deal with any situation. IPC and CRPC are quite sufficient to deal with any situation. Otherwise, if you allow somebody to kill people and say that it was justified, I will never accept such a scenario.
So
for instance, in Punjab, often people mention Punjab. Punjab, there was militancy at one time in Punjab, and militancy was controlled not because of the police tactics of picking up people and killing them, and then claiming that they were killed in encounters. It was not. The normalcy was restored there because of a political process. Democracy, political process, ultimately resulted in peace in Punjab. It was not because of KPSB's police extravaganza that peace was restored there. That is personally my belief. And from that belief, I am convinced that the situation in the Northeast can also be controlled through democratic means. You give democracy, you give forums for the people, you wean the people away from militancy. Why are people becoming militant? People are becoming militant because they don't have job opportunities. They don't have many opportunities for education. They don't have opportunities for growth. Why are people in Jharkhand fighting against the police? Is it because they would like to fight? They would like to be killed? No. They feel that these people, when they go there, they exploit them. The tribals are exploited.
Exactly.
The poor people are exploited. In the name of school, they don't provide any education. How many government schools have teachers? I once visited Jharkhand. I found one Muslim teacher with a beard. He was teaching, and 4 or 5 children were sitting in front of him. So I stopped my car and went, and that was one school. So I asked him, "Kya hua hai?" And then the teacher told me a very interesting thing. He says, he is a Urdu teacher, and he was posted there in that particular school, where there are no students to study Urdu. Nobody wants to study Urdu. And this Muslim gentleman doesn't know any English. He doesn't know English. He doesn't know. He doesn't know Hindi also.
Okay.
But since he is the headmaster of the school, he is there. And what can he do? So some 4 or 5 children are there. That day only 4 or 5 children are there. And all of them, so he put all of them together, and he asked one of the elder girls to teach them. And he is a government employee. He is a government teacher. Now tell me, is it the teacher's fault?
No, it's
This was a government school.
Exactly.
This was in Jharkhand. Now tell me, what kind of education will those children get? And if suppose the children speak against the government, speak against the teacher, against the school system, can you blame them?
No.
No.
So you as the government have a responsibility to create infrastructure for them. You have so much of money to spend on many things. For instance, Narendra Modi ji has been traveling all over the world.
Exactly.
He has been spending a lot of money,
Right.
and you have money for all that. But why can't you provide proper education to the children? Education is a neglected subject in the country. Do you know in Haryana? In Jharkhand? Do you know in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, in the rural areas, if somebody falls sick, he has to go miles and miles to get some medicine. The government hospitals, dispensaries do not have any medicine. Even if there is some dispensary, there won't be any doctor. If there is a doctor, there won't be any medicine. Then what kind of service are you getting? And if some of them turn against you, can you say that they are born Naxalites? They are terrorists?
No, they are
So your responsibility is to provide these services to these people and make them part of your country.
Exactly.
And here we are not bothered. Our people are bothered only about it. The Prime Minister is now talking about introducing a bullet train service.
Exactly.
Bullet train from Calcutta to Bombay and Delhi to Bombay, Calcutta. Okay, bullet trains, I am not against it. But what about communication to the facilities for the poor people?
Exactly.
So one has to progress has to be holistic. The
Exactly.
country has to grow in a holistic manner. You and I should get the benefit of it. Even the poorest of the poor should get benefit of development.
Yes, sir.
It's not when Narendra Modi ji travels in a BMW car.
That
Is-
was we should
that is not
Exactly.
that is not
It's
progress.
not development.
Exactly.
And that's what the point with the internet.org, Facebook
Yeah,
and many
yeah,
other
yeah.
giants with coming forward. They are saying that we will introduce internet in the rural area.
Yeah.
And even Modi ji is saying that to the farmers will provide free internet and all that. But do we really need to provide internet to the farmers? They are killing them, so they are suiciding because of the hunger. And they are saying that we will strive to make them digital.
Yeah.
Do we really need to make them digital right
Yeah,
now?
digitally, I am not against using digital technology. Let it be.
Whether
Let
it
it
should be the
be
priority.
But that should not be the priority.
This should not be
The priority should be to increase the job potential of the people,
Exactly.
to train them, educate them, give them proper education, so that they are able to stand on their own legs.
Exactly.
That should be the aim. And then give job opportunities, and create situations where people can invest, create situations where people can people will not exploit each other, and create situations where people can enjoy lead a reasonably good life.
Exactly.
That should be our aim. And instead of saying that there will be 500 railway stations where people will have
Exactly.
connectivity. What is the purpose? Nowadays I don't need these 500 railway stations because I have it on my phone. When I travel, I get my internet service.
Okay.
Who is going to benefit?
Exactly.
Exactly.
This is all bakwas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So coming back to the point,
Yeah.
if we talk about media covering various types of news like digital India and making it the hype in the media, don't you think that there are various other cases which should be promoted through the media instead of promoting digital India, which does not have any as a poor country, not a poor country but a developing country which does not have its basic necessities, and where we have digital India. How does a human being see media, or how will it take media? Because it has been doing that because they are not aware about what is the correct notion for people, right?
Yeah. You see, we have distorted values. For instance, today, about 80% of the population has access to mobile telephone. But even today, nearly 45% of the people do not have access to toilets. And India is supposed to be a great nation. Even a small country like Afghanistan, there about 95% of the people have access to toilets. They have toilets. But here, about 45% of the people in India do not have toilets. And because they do not have toilets, they defecate in the open. And because they defecate in the open, a lot of diseases are also caused. Many people do fall sick because of this. And similarly, for instance, in India, Delhi is the capital. And here, people are suffering from dengue. How is dengue created? Dengue is caused by mosquitoes. And mosquitoes are the easiest to control. Why? Because mosquitoes can grow only in stagnant water. If stagnant water is removed, mosquitoes cannot grow. And mosquitoes cannot live for long also. It will die. So if you stop stagnant water, which means if you have cleanliness in the capital, this disease can be easily controlled. And we are not bothered about that. Instead, we are selling a lot of anti-mosquito, a lot of coils, a lot of lotions.
Exactly.
Yeah, all that. It's a multi-billion business.
Exactly.
It is.
Actually, mosquitoes can be easily controlled. How? By stopping all these stagnant water. Remove it, clean the area.
Right.
Mosquitoes will not be there.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I came in 1973 to Delhi, I lived in Arcapura, and I never came across any mosquitoes. I never saw any mosquito in Arcapura. Today, I live in this house. This house is full of mosquito in the evening. Yeah.
Getting back, I would say that the whole idea of media hype that we have been seeing, or I would say commercializing things, it's not just TV channels or news channels. It's the whole country that has been a part of that. For example, if you see various brands or various movies that are made in the country, people get affected from it, right? But from a children to a youngster, people, students, everybody get affected, and they take things forward through whatever they see in the media, right? So don't you think media has to work very, very with responsibility, because it has the power to make a person's career. Probably it has the power to show society the reality instead of showing something which is not important.
Yeah, so we should have our priorities set right. Unfortunately, the media also we suffer these TRP
Exactly.
ratings and all that. That is one unfortunate part. Ideally, we should set our priorities right. Unfortunately, even our media barons also, they are not bothered. I know about one media organization where the chief executive told the journalists that you should write your stories in such a way that those stories interest the people who travel in first class in Shatabdi train.
Exactly.
Not the common man.
Not the common man.
You are the passengers who travel in first class of Shatabdi should be able to enjoy your paper.
Right.
That is your objective. When a newspaper owner or the representative of the newspaper owner tells the journalist, this is what you should do. Now tell me what kind of journalism can you expect from
So
that?
it's not the fault. I'm not saying it's the fault of the journalist who
Yeah.
work. It's the fault of the media or media company that
Yeah.
follows some sort of a big tycoon of the country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is important. But as I said, priorities need to be set right. If earlier, the media's priority was on freedom struggle, getting freedom.
Exactly.
Today we do not have any of that. Today, it is unfashionable to write about, education.
Education.
It is unfashionable to write about, the poor man's problems. You take the newspapers, where do you find any story about the poverty? Where do you find any story about the poor man's problems? Where do you find, for instance, earlier, it was easy for a brilliant person to get admission in a government medical college.
Exactly.
Now, even for a poor person, even if you get a medical admission, the cost of education is so much that he won't be able to afford it.
Exactly.
Now, the cost of education has gone up enormously. The fees structure in schools and colleges have gone up so much. The poor cannot study.
Exactly.
They are left out of the system, and the newspapers or the media is not bothered about that.
So-
And for instance, the cinema earlier,
Exactly.
Earlier cinema, the themes would be about poverty, how a poor man fights the system and comes up. Now all the films, take any Malayalam movie, take any Hindi movie, they all depict the rich, the super rich, and the hero has to come in a big BMW car or a Mercedes car. There is no poor, there is no hero who comes on a bicycle now. In my younger days, the heroes used to be coming in a bicycle, or they are ordinary people.
Right.
Now in films, I think there was a movie called Kabhi Khush Kabhi Kabhi Gum.
Yeah.
I think that film was a divider. From that day onwards, all the Hindu films, Hindi films have started focusing on the
big
rich.
sets,
Exactly.
the big budget,
Yeah.
The big budget,
targeting their
everything
right
is
audience.
big.
Yeah.
Even from the story to the hero to the actresses, everybody is shown in a very fashionable way.
Yeah.
What about the common man?
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah,
portrayed.
so the common man is neglected. The common man is ignorant, and that is true about the newspapers also. The common man, has gone on. I think common man was the theme of R.K. Lakshman's
Exactly.
cartoons. I think with his death, the common man also died. So now the media is interested. What is the media's interest? The media's interest is in getting advertisements.
Exactly.
So they are writing stories in such a way. For instance, yesterday, day before yesterday, the Times of India had a report about one person I know. So I was happy to see his picture with Hamid Ansari. His picture was there, and the report was also there. I was very happy because I know that person, and he is my friend also. I was happy to see that. Now, after some time, I opened the Times of India. There also the same story appeared, the same coverage, the same length, the same height, the same width. Everything was the same. Then I realized that the story was given probably by an ad agency.
Right.
Same story.
Exactly.
Otherwise, how can the same story with the same comma, with the same full stop appear in two newspapers on the same day?
Same day.
It was given by an ad agency, they put it.
Exactly.
And they put it not as an advertisement, they put it as a news item. So I thought that was wrong. You should have mentioned that it was an advertisement, then it's okay. But I was cheated in the sense I read it as first as a news item.
News item.
Then when I saw the same story in the other paper,
Right.
then I realized it was. I wrote a
Yes.
post in the morning about it.
Oh.
Okay.
On Facebook I wrote a post also. I mentioned Abhidan's
Okay.
case also. Yeah.
Okay. So this is all a PR strategy that is
Yeah.
going
So
around.
PR professionals are are
More.
ruling the roost in the
Exactly.
media. Yeah.
So what about the people, common people who do not have any PR skills? How will they go up the ladder then?
Yeah, that is an issue. That is an issue. That is an issue in politics, for instance. It's almost impossible for a person to come up unless you are Narendra Modi yourself, because he came up the hard way. But otherwise, you have to be somebody like Lalu Yadav's son, or Nitish, not Nitish, what is his name? Ramdas Paswan's sons, or Mulayam Singh Yadav's son, daughter-in-law.
Daughter.
Then only you can come up in politics. So for the common man, it is very, very difficult. So for the common man, the only way in which he can come up is education. And education, unfortunately, the government is neglecting. And the government is withdrawing from the education sector, saying that the private sector is interested in. You might have seen this school. There are so many schools here. They are all private schools. They are all catering for a certain kind of students.
Right.
But you go to, I can show you, I can take you to a MCD school here, Delhi Municipal School, and look at the condition of the schools, and look at the condition of education that is important there. And how do you expect those children to compete with the children who pass out from these schools? And if this is the situation in Delhi, now imagine what is the situation in Jharkhand, what is the situation in Rajasthan, and the government. I'm not blaming the BJP, or I'm not blaming the Congress. All governments, they are not interested in the poor.
Exactly.
So government is actually withdrawing from the education sector. For instance, on the case of public health, the government of India spends only less than 2% of its GDP on public health. A country like Bangladesh spends 4% of its GDP on public health. A country like Sri Lanka spends 4% on their public health. Here we are spending less than 2%. Similarly, the percentage-wise, spending on education has been going down. Even the mecca of capital called the US, there the public schools are there. Public schools being schools owned by the government, they are thriving there. The government is spending a lot of money on government schools. Here, the government is withdrawing from
Government schools
school
and
and handing over to the private sector.
private sector.
Private sector is only interested in money.
Business
Wherever
making.
money is there, they will start a school.
Exactly.
They will start all kinds of schools. But they will not invest in a school in a small area in Jharkhand.
Jharkhand, obviously.
But when party spends more than 10,000 crore on their election campaign,
Yeah.
they don't need to pay attention to these.
Yeah,
They
so
have
the
to
poor,
invest.
unfortunately, there are no job opportunities actually for the poor.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and what kind of industries Mr. Modi is talking about? Modi is talking about make in India. Okay, let them make in India. How many people will get jobs? Yeah, they are not going to give jobs to nowadays. They will use technology. They will bring robots. Robots they will bring and make good machines will make.
Exactly.
So they don't for instance metro station is coming up. Metro is coming up. You look around. How many employees are there? How many workers are bringing? All this work is done by the machines. I am not against machination. Yeah, but my point is we should think of the large population.
Exactly. And they should give
And
job
our
opportunities
our
also.
country can develop itself only if a large section of these people are able to find jobs.
Exactly. That's the only way that.
Otherwise, India will remain like this only.
Exactly. So
Although
while
it-
summing up, yes.
Although Mr. Modi will keep on saying that India is developing, India is growing, investment is coming. I don't find any investment coming.
Exactly. There are various startups, as Korrade.com is a startup also.
Yeah.
We have been like various other startups struggle for the investment, and up till unless the product is made, they don't get any sort of investments also. So Mr. Narendra Modi should also launch something like that could help startups in the country also to probably figure out some investments for them.
Yeah.
So through not just by going to Facebook or meeting so many entrepreneurs there, he should have focused on India's entrepreneurship, and he people are promoting there also.
Yeah, that is what is very important. It is not lack of money. India is a rich country.
Exactly.
And people do not realize that India was always a rich country. It was not never a poor country. Why did the Mughals come here? They came here because there was wealth here.
Wealthy.
Why did the Europeans come? They came here because India has wealth. Unfortunately, at that time also, the wealth was concentrated in certain hands. The wealth was not among the people.
Exactly.
It was concentrated in certain hands. Those days it was the Rajas and certain upper castes. But today the Rajas have been replaced by multi-millionaires. And India, the multi-millionaires have been growing enormously
Exactly.
fast. Now, let the people also grow. Let there be what do you call holistic growth of the people.
Holistic is more important.
Yeah, that is more important. Once that happens, our country will become a great nation. So it is not that we need money. We have the money here. Only thing it needs to be utilized properly. And the government has to give directions for that. The government has to give leadership for that. It is not by attracting, going out and telling, please come and do, our people are very cheap. You can, get your works done at a top cost. That is very bad.
Right.
You should, encourage your own people, Let there be, 1,000 factories come up in
Coming
India.
up in India.
Yeah. And that will solve the problem of India.
And media should cover all this.
Yeah, media should, the
It
primary
works
aim of
as
the
a
media.
watchdog for government, right?
Yeah.
It should cover all those sort of things that has to be covered instead of promoting PR skills or some sort of big brands of the country.
Yeah, let us hope. Yeah.
Let us hope.
Thank you.
Let's just start. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.